The first lily of June opens its red mouth. All over the sand road where we walk, multiflora rose climbs trees cascading white or pink blossoms, simple, intense, the scene drifting like colored mist. The arrowhead is spreading its creamy clumps of flower, and the blackberries are blooming in the thickets. Season of joy for the bee. The green will never again be so green, so purely and lushly new. Grass lifting its wheaty seed heads into the wind, rich, fresh wine of June. We stagger into you smeared with pollen, overcome as the turtle laying her eggs in roadside sand. It's more than enough from Marge Piercy.
I'm the Reverend Ron Ferris. My pronouns are he, him, and we are All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church. Rooted in a community of love, the mission of All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church is to cultivate compassion, to foster spiritual connection, and to enact transformative justice, to heal ourselves and the world. Joined this morning by our elementalists, June and Ren. Thank you both for your service this morning. This morning, by the way, started for some of us at 5:30 for a solstice sound bath ritual, which also was in some ways a de facto air communion because it was based in a sound bath. The sound is reverberating through air, and it was the one communion of earth, air, fire, and water that we didn't have yet. So going forward, we're just going to consider that our air service, our air communion, and we'll do it every year. Some people will at least do it every year because it was at 5:30 in the morning. I'd like to light our chalice this morning with some words from Rabbi Marissa James. May Iranians who mostly hate their leaders be safe. May Palestinians who mostly hate their leaders be safe. May Israelis who mostly hate their leaders be safe. And may U.S. citizens and residents who mostly hate their leaders be safe. May all the warmongering authoritarians be deposed, and may they one day experience real justice for all the suffering and death they cause.
As we prepare for the offering, I'd like to draw your attention to those yellow cards in the pew backs that are in front of you. If you find yourself in a situation that you could use some care for one of our pastoral ministries, please fill out a card and drop it in the offering plate as it passes. As to the offering, we are pleased to be able to partner with organizations whose values dovetail with our own. And this month, we are sharing our collection plate with Inside Out Youth Services. Inside Out Youth Services is a day sanctuary for our LGBTQ2IA+ youth between the ages of 13 and 24. They provide discussion groups, drop-ins, leadership opportunities, counseling, food, and clothing, all toward supporting the well-being of disenfranchised youth in our community. They also provide adult workshops to train parents and youth service adults to advocate for our youth in the community. Our sponsor in this effort is the Dismantling Racism team. If you wish to make an online donation, be sure to select Share the Plate from the drop-down menu. And if you're texting to the number that's on the screen, indicate the dollar amount plus share. If your collection plate donation is a pledge payment, just write pledge on the memo line of your check, and we'll apply your donation toward your pledge instead of the share. And thank you in advance for your generosity.
And now we consult the gods of tech, otherwise known as Andy and Alex. Are we good, Andy? We're going to find out.
Controversy over citizenship, foreign interventions, businesses closing, economic turmoil, global uncertainty. 1815 was a pivotal year for the United States. It was also an important time for the birth of American Unitarianism. The War of 1812 had ended in February of that year, a war between the youthful United States and Great Britain over trade, commerce, maritime rights, and the meaning of U.S. citizenship and territorial expansion. With the ending of the war, William Ellery Channing, a liberal Congregationalist and minister of the prominent Federal Street Church in Boston, Massachusetts, and his colleagues anticipated a better, if not calmer, year. They were wrong. A different kind of fight was gaining momentum, a fight not waged with cannon, fire, and bayonets, but with convictions and ideas that would revolutionize American religious life forever and give a name to a growing body of religious liberals. What had become known as the Unitarian controversy had erupted in 1805 with the election of Henry Ware Sr. as the Hollis Professor of Divinity at Harvard College. Ware and a growing number of Congregationalist ministers were challenging core Calvinist doctrines, including original sin, the nature of salvation, the interpretation of the Bible, and the Trinity. And many of their parishioners were embracing this emerging liberal theology. It was a quiet revolution that was never meant to be a revolution at all. By 1807, the liberals held the majority of the faculty positions and the presidency of Harvard College, and the conservative wing of the Congregationalists, the ones who called themselves Orthodox, meaning right thinking, responded forcefully. They issued critical pamphlets, launched periodicals, shunned liberal colleagues, and established their own theological school, Andover Newton. The Orthodox began calling the liberals Unitarian as an insult. This theological feud would ebb and flow until 1815, and that's when Orthodox minister Jedediah Morse spearheaded renewed attacks on liberal ministers. He wanted to expose these ministers and their liberalism, separate them from their Orthodox colleagues and their congregations. In a calculated move, Orthodox ministers refused to exchange pulpits with their liberal colleagues. Jedediah Morse also wrote a book entitled American Unitarianism. A book was an attempt to brand the liberals as heretics. By associating them with an English form of Unitarianism, the intention of these efforts was to isolate the liberals, and instead it consolidated their resistance. And so from his pulpit at Federal Street Church in Boston, we now know as Arlington Street Church. There you are. William Ellery Channing began answering these attacks publicly, emerging as the spokesperson of the liberal movement. And let's be clear, He did not do this alone. He had lots of colleagues and family members and people in his life supporting him, including women, people of color, who often get left out of the story. Then, in this very city of Baltimore, on May 5th, 1819, Channing delivered the ordination sermon of Jared Sparks at the newly gathered First Independent Church of Baltimore. The sermon that became known as Unitarian Christianity embraced the label Unitarianism and interpreted it as the understanding of the unity of God, not a Trinity, and Jesus' role as an important teacher that was subordinate to God. And in that sermon, he laid out the basic tenets of what he called a pure Christianity, a pure and rational Christianity. It was a theological declaration of independence. Even after the Baltimore sermon and embracing the label Unitarian and redefining it, even after Channing helped gather a church in New York City, even after the court decision in 1820, when that church property was awarded to many of the liberal leaders and congregations, the Unitarians resisted creating a new association, or at least it seems like that. Many of the liberals were not ready to fully separate themselves from the Congregationalist body. It would take 6 more years before the liberals formally organized themselves into an association. And yet the liberals were organizing all along. They had created periodicals like the Monthly Anthology and the Christian Monitor. They had established clubs and ministerial organizations and associations like the Evangelical Missionary Society. A circle of Boston liberal ministers had joined together to hire ministers at large, including Joseph Tuckerman, to serve the poor and those in need. That is community ministry, my friend. And in May of 1820, Channing invited liberal ministers to meet at his church to develop an organization for mutual support. They called it the Berry Street Conference. We know it today as the Berry Street Essay. And yet, the younger generation, did you hear me? The younger generation of liberals still sought stronger connections. At the meeting of Anonymous Association, that was really the name, the Anonymous Association, an organization of liberal Boston ministers, young Unitarian ministers like Ezra Giles Gannett, and Channing's assistant minister, by the way, and also Henry Ware Jr., his father, senior, was the one back at the Unitarian controversy time. They and others decided that they could not wait any longer, and they took it upon themselves to design an organization to support Unitarianism in New England and beyond. And so in May of 1825, at the Berry Street Conference, the American Unitarian Association was born. A constitution was adopted and a purpose that wanted to diffuse the knowledge and promote the interests of the liberal tradition of Unitarianism. They did not seek to hide Unitarianism. They sought to share and expand this practical and life-saving tradition. With this act, the separation between the Orthodox and the liberal strands of Congregationalism was institutionalized. It was an act of hope. They were lovers of life. They were builders of institutions. They were seekers of truth and keepers of faith. They are our ancestors, and we are their hope.
That worked pretty well. There may be more to that. I'm not entirely sure, but you can check. That is a YouTube available right now, and I guess in perpetuity. If you want to go home and make sure that that was in fact the end of the sermon, you may do so. I'm going to, because that piqued my interest. A little UU history on this solstice Sunday. As we leave this time and place that we have created together for one another and for those who we don't even see or know about right now, I want you to remember our history, our place in the universe, our place in each other's lives, and the life that we give and receive from one another. I also want you to remember that this week was Juneteenth. Your assignment is to go support a Black-owned business. Common Grounds, is it Common Grounds Coffee, I believe? Stompin' Grounds Coffee, go get a coffee there. Go get a juice at the juice bar on Bijou. Let us go in peace, let us go living our values, and let us go singing.